Hello again, I'm Tripp Rogers, and this is Tripp's Take. Well, I want to talk about my new phone. Yeah, I finally made the move. Now, I have been an Apple fan for ever and always, and I have had every iPhone there is, starting with the first iPhone. And I just love my iPhone. Now, you may say to yourself, Tripp, why did you get a new iPhone? Well, a couple of reasons. Number one, I liked the idea of the new button on the side, the action button, which, is kind of a cool thing. I don't like that switch for on and off for mute and stuff. And you can set the action button to that. But I made the big jump. Now, previously, I had stayed on the small side of Apple phones. They've given you choices of two size. You have the Max and then you have the regular size. And of course, now there's an iPhone Plus if you want to get a bigger phone. But I've always stayed on the small side. And one of the reasons is because, well, again, I have an iPad. So if I want to look at things in the big screen, I'll use the iPad, right? But one of the things I have found as I get older is it's nice to have a little more screen to read, make it easier, because let's face it, my eyesight is not what it used to be. And I used to be able to do stuff without glasses. Now, basically, I've got to use glasses even when I'm doing computer work and I'm working up in the studio. So that's one of the reasons why. But the one thing that always kept me from getting the big Apple phone, the big iPhone, is I was always... I said, it's going to be so big in my pocket and I'm going to know it's there. Whereas the smaller one, you can stick it in the pocket. You really don't know. And well, in the last couple of weeks after I've gotten the phone, I have noticed that I've mentioned that, I can tell the phone is in my pocket because it is bigger than what I am used to having. But again, it has a lot of pluses. And the other reason I got the phone is it's been a couple of years. I usually upgrade. I'm not like I used to where I'll upgrade my phone every year. I'll usually upgrade it every 2. And then, of course, I'll pay for it over a couple of years. But one of the things that, iPhone stresses and Apple stresses is the fact that iPhone has some great durability. And I got to say they're right. I really haven't had a problem. The only problems I have had with iPhones are my daughter dropping it into a lake. She went through 3 iPhones in 3 months. Yeah. But, and the thing of it is, I would not trade in my old phones. I would keep my phones as a backup because, something happens. You got to have a phone. So that way I would have a phone as a backup. That's, again, it makes sense to have backups. I don't have 20 backups. I just have, the one phone. But this time I, made the jump and I traded in one of the older phones that I had. Now, I should explain one of the funny ironies about my life is the fact that every time I do something sometimes, like 2 months later, something else comes along and it kind of helps you along. And this was the case. I bought a new iPhone in 2020. And this is when, and I upgraded my iPhone when everybody in the family actually got their phones upgraded. But I waited because I wanted to get I wanted to get the Pro version of the iPhone. I think it was the 12. I wanted to get the Pro as opposed to the regular iPhone, not the big size, but just the Pro. Wanted the better camera, that kind of thing. So I ordered it and I got it. And then 2 months later, through my job at Best Buy, because I was an Apple master, they sent me a new phone, iPhone 12 Pro, the same phone I had just bought. So now, of course, I use that as opposed to using my iPhone 12. And of course, I kept that here because if you're familiar with when you buy a phone through your carrier, you've got to pay it off over 24 months. And that's one of the ways they keep you with the carrier. You have to pay it off. So I paid that phone off but basically it sat in a box because I was using the phone that they gave me at work because also I had Apple Care on that for free and the whole thing. And there you go. And then the following year, they upgraded us to the iPhone 13 Pro, which was great. And I got that just before I left Best Buy. And so I've had that phone now for a couple of years. And the phone still works well, but this is the first time I decided to use the trade-in program. And so I bought this phone through Apple. I've always bought my phone through my carrier, but I went through Apple this time. And one of the parts of this is that you're trading in a phone. So I traded in that 12 that basically had been sitting in a box for 3 years. But the problem was, to trade it in, I had to send it to Apple. And there was the trade-in also with my carrier, it offered me a huge discount on the phone. So you have to send this phone in, and I'd been hearing about issues where people were having phones stolen when they shipped them back. And Apple opens up, they get an empty box, and you're out. And in my case, it was severe. It was a big chunk of change, about $100. So I was rather concerned about it. So I'm sitting here following the tracking on it as close as I can to make sure it gets there. Had to make sure, because again, $800 is an awful lot of money. I don't want to shell out, for the phone. Whereas had I bought it through a carrier, I could have taken it to, their stores, and Verizon has stores, every town just about, or they're close to us. But that was the fear, and I had to deal with that. But I finally got the email, your trade-in has been done, everything is good, and you're all set. So for the next 3 years, I pay $10 a month for my iPhone. It's not bad. It's not a bad deal, and you're getting the newest one. Going back to the iPhone, I would recommend it if you do have an iPhone that's a couple of years old. I mean, it's just, it's really good. I mean, it's a great trade-in. They're trying to boost business. They're trying to get the new phones out there. And I wasn't in a hurry, by the way. That's the other part of it, is I placed this order and I had to wait about a month. But the funny part of it is, my boss at work, Jerry, God love him, he is selling the station, and he's going to retire. He deserves to retire. He's been in this business for 50 years. He's a legend. Jerry Rogers, who I'm talking about, by the way. As soon as they announced the new iPhones, he said, I bet you're going to get one. Tripp is going to, he said it on the air. And I said, Jerry, I'll bet you $1 I don't buy one. And that weekend, I looked and I said, all right, I'm going to order an iPhone. So I sent him a picture of 4 quarters, and he had no idea what I'm talking about. We made a bet of $1. Walked in on Monday, and I put the 4 quarters on his desk, and he goes, what's that for? And I said, I got the new iPhone. You win the bet. That was funny. It was very funny. But, like I said, that was a bet I lost, and I had to pay off, because I did. But anyhow, again, I'm just telling you my experiences. I love it. I think it's great. Again, the bigger size, you pay more for the bigger size, but I think it was time for me to get one. And I should mention that, my buddy Scott had one, for years. He always got the big phone because he had trouble seeing, and he would always, jack up it would make it bigger, and that helped him, and he liked that. And there are people who like the bigger size and have gotten the bigger size right off the bat. But the fact that I have the watch, and I have the phone, and I have an iPad, again, that was my argument. I have an iPad. If I want to look at something big, I'll look at the iPad, but not taking the iPad anywhere really with me. I mean, the iPad stays home unless I go away. That's the only time I take the iPad with me. So those are my thoughts. I figured I would talk about the iPhone and talk about that. That is Tripp's Take for October. Can you believe it? We are already almost at the end of the month. Yeah, October 27th, 2023. I'd love to hear your comments and questions about this podcast. All you've got to do is email trippstake@gmail.com. Fantasy football players, the Hall of Famer Mike Scheck and I are back at it again for another season of the Fantasy Sultans. You can find them on Spotify for podcasters, also on YouTube. Just search both places for the Fantasy Sultans. And if you like the music of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, how about giving a listen to WTRSradio.com online? Join me again next week. For now, Tripp Rogers. Thanks for listening. Make it a great one.